Yeah, we're ready.
I'm so sorry.
It's
Welcome,
okay.
friends. My apologies. I was daydreaming over here looking at my notes. So, welcome. Glad to have you here with us. Hi, Lou.
Good morning.
Good morning. Sorry, I was looking at my notes and completely
It's all right.
lost the fact that you'd had me on. Anyway, so welcome. We are going to be talking about chapter 16 over here, and this is verses 18 through 20.
Yeah.
Is this 181 or 182, Lou?
It is 182. Let me change that. I'll change.
Okay.
Yep. You're absolutely right. It's episode 182.
So today we're going to be talking about if you remember from last time, we had said that verses 16 through 20 of chapter 16 talk about the fall of the asuras, the demons, the ones who are only thinking of themselves, and how they go downwards and devolve instead of evolving from one life to the next. So verse 18 says, the asuras are completely controlled by their own egoism, their insolence, their power, their enjoyment, their anger, their haughtiness, their lust and desires, and their wrath.
Mhm.
They detest and despise me. Me, Krishna is talking about himself as the Brahman, the Lord. They detest and despise me in their own body and in others' body. So, what this means is that these people are proud. These asuras, the demons, thinking only of themselves and their selfish interests. Because they have money, because they have power, they've manipulated themselves into great positions. They are proud, they're egotistical, they're haughty, they're malicious, they're insolent, they put other people down, they have lust for sensual enjoyment, they have anger when their desires are not met, and they have great wrath when their desires are not met. They crave for sensual enjoyment. So this is a very good time for us to refresh ourselves in terms of spirit and matter. You remember we said that we are all a matter that is enlivened by Brahman or Atman within us. That enlivening force, that electricity, that life force, which is Brahman or Atman, gives us life. So let us divide this area into two. One is the Atman, which is spirit or the self with a capital S, plus matter, which is the body, the mind, and the intellect, right? The body has five sense organs and five organs of action, those 10. What do they do? So as an individual, because right now I have a body, I have a mind, I have an intellect, I consider that to be me, right? But it's not me. If I focus on the Atman inside, that could be considered me, is considered me. That's the real me.
Mhm.
But instead, I look at the matter component and I look in the mirror and I say, that's me. The individual, therefore, perceives with his five sense organs, and what does he perceive? He perceives the world. So I look at the things around me, I look at the trees, I look at the clouds, and I say, I am seeing this, I am smelling that, I am hearing such and such, I am tasting this. This is all the perceptions. So we tend to focus. This is very important, friends. Please focus on this, write it down, think about it. We tend to focus on us as the perceiver of the perception instead of the consciousness that makes us perceive what we perceive. Okay, so the mind, then our mind, it's not the brain has inside it a functioning mind. The mind feels emotions. Those emotions are joy, happiness, sadness, etc. We think of ourselves as the mind that is having the emotion. We think of the emotions. We focus on the mind, we focus on the emotion, when we really should be focusing on the consciousness that allows us to have those emotions. That's the real you. Our intellect thinks, and then we have a thought. I want to be famous, I want to be well known, I want to be popular. Those, that intellect, that thought, that is what we focus on instead of the consciousness that allows us to think. So, life itself is divided into the perceiver, who is the feeler, the thinker, which is the subject, the experiencer, the individual. And what he thinks about, the perception, the emotion, the thought, is the object, the experienced, the world. We should be focusing on the Atman or the spirit or the self. If we do that, we are a divine person. Instead, if we focus on the world and what it can give us, and the perceptions and the emotions and the thoughts and the sense objects and what gives us pleasure, that is a demonic person, an asura. My teacher, Guru Gautam Jain, used to say, think of a child that doesn't know any better. You go to it with, in one hand, a handful of candy, and in the other hand, you have a wad of $100 bills, thick wad of $100 bills. The child, what does he pick? Because
Candy.
he doesn't know any better, he picks the candy, right? He picks the candy. We tend to do the same thing. We've got inside us the opportunity to focus on the Atman, the self, but instead we focus on the perceptions, the emotions, and the thoughts. So this verse 18 says that asuras do that, and there are consequences to that. So then he goes on to verse 19. Verse 19 says, verse 19 says, those who are hateful and cruel. Hateful, these words are important, everyone, every word. Hateful and cruel, the lowest of men who are wrongdoers. I, Krishna, Brahman, dispatch them repeatedly, again and again, into a life of transmigration only in asuric, demonic wombs. Or cruel haters of others, the worst of men, I hurl, throw them, these men, forever in the world only in demonic wombs. So, what does he mean by saying this? He's saying that life or Brahman is like electricity or petrol. Electricity, when it goes inside a fan, makes the fan move. When it goes into a light bulb, it makes the light glow. Brahman, when it comes inside a body with being, it makes the being come alive, right? He's saying that this Brahman makes us come alive in an individual, but not only just to our bodies, but also the universe, trees. You have oxygen, you have carbon dioxide, you have the world spinning on its axis, you have gravity, you have the atmospheric pressure, humidity, temperature. All of these things are caused by Brahman. You may find it hard to believe, but if Brahman were not acting, and this is going on for billions of years, not just hundreds of years, thousands of years, billions of years, where the world's Earth's axis, the distance from the sun, the distance from another planet is exactly maintained for billions of years. It is hard to imagine, hard to believe, but Brahman does that.
Yep.
Brahman makes sure that everything within your body, every little biological cell fights infections. And that is all because of this life force within us. But the cruel haters, why are they cruel? Because they think that they're superior, they're rich, they're powerful, they're popular, they control society, they have all the judges in their pockets, the police bow down to them, they don't give them tickets, they don't give them any punishment. Therefore, they think that they're more powerful than God. They say, God is my friend. If there is a God, then God is my friend, because nothing ever happens to me. They're cruel to others. They hate others. They only think of themselves as one to love. Such people reject Brahman, and they hurl, by doing this, they hurt themselves and they hurt the world around them. Therefore, they're known as cruel haters. So what Krishna says is that such people, because they have such high vasanas and desires, they keep getting born again and again. But each time, because of their poor karmas, bad karmas, they get born into families and environment which he calls demonic or asuric wombs. These people get born into families that are more business oriented or money oriented or again politically motivated. So an asuric family and an asuric environment. He says, I hurl them into demonic wombs. What does that mean? There is not a real Krishna or a God that takes a soul and throws it into a demonic womb. That's like petrol in a car
Right.
saying, I hurl these drivers, bad drivers, into an accident. The petrol doesn't cause the accident.
Right.
The petrol only enlivens the car to move. But if you're a bad driver and you're drunk, you're going to get into an accident. And the petrol could say, well, I hurled him into the accident. Had I not been there, the car wouldn't have been moving. I caused that accident. He didn't. The petrol didn't. The driver did it because of his own actions, because of being drunk while driving. But the petrol could say, as Krishna says here, I hurled that driver into an accident. But really, the driver hurled himself. The demon, the asuras, hurled themselves into bad karma by doing bad things. Now, the next verse, which is the last verse of that we're going to do today, verse number 20, talks about the three gateways to hell. This is very interesting. And then from verse 21 onwards, we'll talk about that next episode. So, verse 20 says, those who lack discrimination, obtaining the womb of an asura in every birth, certainly not reaching me, O Arjuna, from there they go to a low end. Or having fallen into demonic wombs, asuric wombs, the deluded, confused asuras, birth after birth, without reaching me, God, Krishna, Brahman, they pass into an even lower state than that of a human being. So he engages, such people engage negative vasanas. The vasanas are always self serving, desires for more and more lust, and all of these things that they want and think of themselves as superior to others. They keep their desires keep getting higher and higher because, as we've said countless times before, when you have a desire makes itself have another desire and another desire. Having unmet desires causes them to grow. Having desires that are met also causes those desires to grow because you want to re experience the same thing that you had, either again or in a better way. So these people, when they die, their desires want to be born again and want to come back. And so each birth, he is born into an asuric family, an asuric environment, and instead of moving upwards, he moves downwards. So when these strong desires that these people have are interrupted by something else, they develop anger, wrath, and they have greed for more and more. If their desires are satisfied or not satisfied, they have greed. So, what he says here is that these are the three gateways to hell. Hell, we talked about in the previous episode. If you haven't heard it, please go back and listen to it in episode 181. Hell is not a finite place. Hell is just a field of experience, a field of mental experience of yourself that you experience pain, suffering, agitation, mental agitation. And so here he is saying the gateways to hell are three emotions that each one of us has. One is, and that's the kingpin. If you don't know what kingpin means or henchman means, look it up. It's fascinating words that we have used. Kingpin is desires. So kingpin is the main thing that goes forward, and henchmen, usually bad, are two followers on either side of this desire that are anger and greed. So these three bad, negative asuras are desires, greed, and anger. And they go together. They usually go together. And what Krishna says here is that these three, when they come into being for yourself, They are the gateways to your hell, your field of experience of pain, discomfort, agitation, mental agitation, and unhappiness, which will only last for a short period of time or a period of time. But these are the gateways. Through this, you will enjoy. Through this, you will experience pain, mental agitation, and discomfort. So, chapter 16 is coming to a close. Next episode, we will do verse 21 through the end of chapter 16. Then we'll do 17 and 18, and then we're done with the Gita. I have lots of exciting plans for what we're going to do after we finish the explanations of the Gita. Now, understand, friends, somebody was having a discussion with me. I am not a self-realized person. Admitted, granted, I am only a student of the Gita and the scriptures. I don't even want most you to know my name. I'm not doing this for myself. I'm doing this because having studied this, having seen the benefits, having enjoyed the benefits, I want you to enjoy it. I study this through textbooks, listening to people, going to their lectures, looking at it on the computer, and I collate it. I take a lot of different things that I get from a lot of different swamis. I put it together because I've been fortunate and I'm grateful that I understand some Indian languages, some English, and I put it together for other people who are like me who can benefit from this. But I'm a worldly person. I have desires, I have anger, I have greed, I have all of these things, asuric tendencies. And what I'm saying is, in spite of that, I think that I've made some progress having gotten this, and I'm hoping that you make similar progress or greater progress.
And
So,
there are benefits to these progress. It's not an all or nothing thing. You don't have to become self-realized to realize benefits from these thoughts and this way of life.
very true, Lou. Very, very true.
In
What I
fact,
used to
you start
say.
to see benefits really early with the early and first steps. You see benefits, and you just keep gaining benefits as you go.
Just from going from point one to from a point that is one, if there's a scale of 1 to 10, even if you just go from 1 to 1.5, you see tremendous benefits.
Yep.
And I hope you experience that, because I've experienced it, and I'm so grateful that I want you to experience it also. So thank you, friends, and I will see you next time.